Have you ever noticed how just hearing your parents' voice can trigger something inside you? Maybe they say your name, or even just ask a simple question, and suddenly, you're irritated. But with everyone else, you feel calm and collected when hearing their voice. But for some reason, the sound of your parents' voices trigger a bodily reaction that you can't quite explain. It doesn't always make sense. You love them, you respect them. So why does their voice sometimes push your buttons in ways no one else's can? According to psychology, it's not because you're a bad son or daughter, but because our parents' voices are the first soundtrack of authority we hear in our lives. It's a stress response built over years of emotional exhaustion. This does not mean that you hate or dislike your parents. Your body is simply giving a reaction that connects their voice to authority and expectations. Over the years, our brains started to connect their voice with rules, correction, and expectations. Even now, as adults, our nervous system can slip back into that child mode. So, when mom or dad says something, even if it's neutral, your body might instantly brace for correction or conflict. It's not about what they're saying in the moment. It's about what their voice represents from years of conditioning. So now, even as an adult, when you hear their voice in a certain way, your body reacts automatically. It doesn't pause to ask, wait, are they actually criticizing me right now? Instead, your nervous system jumps straight into that old defensive state. It's like muscle memory, but for emotions. Your parents might just be asking, hey, do you want some food? And suddenly you feel tense or annoyed, not because of the question itself, but because of all the memories attached to that same voice. There's also something called the familiarity effect. We've heard our parents' voices thousands, maybe millions of times. And while that familiarity brings comfort, it can also create oversensitivity. That constant repetition makes you hyper-aware of their tone, their phrasing, even their breathing patterns before they speak. You can predict what they're about to say before the words come out. Think about it. When you know someone too well, you can predict their tone, their phrasing, even the little sigh they make before they speak. That predictability sometimes makes us impatient, almost like our brain goes, ugh, I've heard this before. With a stranger, you'd let it slide, but with your parents, it gets under your skin. Here's the funny thing. With strangers or acquaintances, we usually let little annoyances slide, but with our parents, we have zero filter. We're so familiar with them that even the smallest thing, like the way they sigh before talking, can feel amplified and irritating. It's almost like when you listen to a song on repeat. At first, it's comforting, but after a while, every note feels exaggerated, and you just want silence. That's what happens with a parent's voice. It's not bad. It's just so familiar that your brain reacts more strongly than with anyone else. Here's where it gets even deeper. Our brains often hold on to old roles. If you felt nagged as a teenager, that pattern can still echo today. Your parents might just be making conversation, but your body reacts as if you're still 15, rolling your eyes and wanting space, even if consciously you aren't annoyed by them. But subconsciously, your brain still has that emotional wiring from years past. It's not about immaturity. Sometimes the past hasn't caught up with the present. Parents also have a unique ability to hit emotional buttons. Because they've known us our whole lives, their words can tap into guilt, shame, or pressure without them even trying. This next one is huge. Emotional triggers. Our parents know us in ways no one else does. They know our insecurities, our habits, our weak spots, sometimes better than we do ourselves. Imagine your mom asking, "Are you eating healthy?" From someone else, that's a casual question. But from her, it might feel like judgment, like she's subconsciously saying that you look unhealthy or you don't take care of yourself. That irritation is often a defense against those vulnerable feelings. Even if they don't mean it negatively, the history behind their voice makes it hit harder. That irritation you feel is often your defense mechanism, your way of protecting yourself from guilt, shame, or feelings of inadequacy. It's not really anger at them. It's your brain saying, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to feel judged, so I'll put up a wall of irritation instead. It's not that your parents are treating you like a child on purpose. It's that your nervous system hasn't updated the script. You're no longer 15, but that's the version of you that still reacts when you hear their voice. Finally, there's the independence factor. As adults, we crave autonomy, the sense that we're in control of our own choices. But parents, even unintentionally, can trigger the opposite feeling. Their voice might remind us of being dependent, being guided, being corrected. So when we hear them now, especially in a parental tone, it can feel like they're pulling us back into childhood. That irritation is basically your brain saying, "I'm not a kid anymore. I don't want to be told what to do." It's not rebellion. It's the natural push for independence clashing with old habits. That clash between who you are now and who you used to be creates friction. Irritation is often your brain's way of saying, "I'm not a kid anymore. I want to be treated as an equal." This is why the same exact comment, if said by a friend or coworker, wouldn't bother you, but from a parent, it stings. It challenges your sense of independence, even if they don't mean it that way. Now, here's the important part. Irritation doesn't mean you don't love or value your parents. It means you're human, and your brain is responding to years of history with them. The good news is, once you become aware of these patterns, you can start to break them. Next time you feel that irritation rising, pause and ask yourself, am I reacting to what they're saying now, or am I reacting to an old memory? That small shift in awareness can help you stay calmer, respond with more patience, and maybe even appreciate the voice that, despite everything, has been with you your entire life. Think of it like debugging your brain. If you know it's just old conditioning playing out, it's easier not to take that irritation so seriously. A lot of times, what comes across as nagging or judgment is actually your parents' way of caring. They might not say it in the perfect way, but often the intention is love. When your parents ask you if you are eating healthy, instead of taking it as them saying, "You don't look good," or "You aren't healthy," take it as them saying, "I want you to live a long life." By reframing the voice as care, even if it's delivered imperfectly, the irritation softens. You stop hearing criticism and start hearing concern. Sometimes irritation isn't just in your head. It's a signal that boundaries are being crossed, and that's okay. If your parents are constantly giving advice you don't want, you can gently but firmly set limits. Boundaries don't mean you don't care. They mean you're protecting the relationship by preventing resentment from building up. The reason your parents' voice triggers irritation is because of all the old experiences linked to it. One way to break that is by creating new, positive associations. For example, spend time with them in contexts that aren't about advice or criticism, like going for a walk, cooking together, or sharing a hobby. If you usually talk on the phone while stressed, try calling them when you're relaxed, so the tone of the conversation feels lighter. Over time, your subconscious mind starts to link their voice with positive moments instead of just old frustrations. Sometimes the irritation is less about them and more about us. If their voice makes you feel judged, it might be poking at your own insecurities. For example, if money is a sore spot, your dad's questions about finances sting more. If health or appearance is sensitive, your mom's comments about food hit harder. Working on those insecurities, whether through reflection, journaling, therapy, or trying to improve in those aspects of life, reduces the power of the trigger. Their voice loses its sting when you're not as sensitive about the subject. At the end of the day, your parents are human. They're imperfect. They have their own triggers, their own history, their own way of showing care. When you feel irritation, try asking yourself, if this same sentence came from a friend or a stranger, would it bother me this much? Often the answer is no. That's your clue that it's the relationship history talking, not the actual words. Practicing compassion can reduce frustration and remind you that irritation is just a passing feeling, not the whole relationship. So breaking the irritation comes down to a mix of awareness, reframing, boundaries, and self-regulation. The more you practice, the more you realize their voice isn't controlling your emotions, you are. And when you take back that control, you can actually start appreciating their voice again for what it is. A reminder of where you came from, not a trap pulling you back. If you like this content and want to see more, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Also, comment down below if you learned something new today.